It is the only MMA gambling show that's hitting on over 80% of the picks. Don't ask me for the information behind that because I'm here with the Ducky and Parker. Ian, we're really already on the clock. We got to do this in less than 20 minutes. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Last week is in the past. The judges were something special, but we don't make excuses. We just move on to the next, and that's what we're going to do. We got UFC this weekend. Obviously, not a lot of big names on the card, but sometimes when that happens, where we get our most value. So we're going to do that.
Well, value. That's exactly what we want to take straight to the pay window. Going down this Saturday, UFC Vegas 33 Hall versus Strickland at the UFC Apex Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. That is 13 scheduled bouts, 26 UFC athletes, 9 countries. There's been 8 cancellations already. Ian, we're doing this before the weigh-ins, so that is to be determined if that is going to change. But we're going to get right into it as we always do. Philip Rowe plus 130 versus Uriah minus 150. Ian, we had some debate about where the pronunciation was for this fight, but how do the odds play out for you?
I do like Uriah here. I'm going to go with your pronunciation because you're usually more correct and I'm usually not. I just think that, look, if you look at his stats, he's undefeated, all first round finishes. However, he's got a good wrestling base. He also, I think, is going to be the more aggressive striker. He throws more power. And Philip Rowe just takes too long to get started, and he takes a lot of shots. I don't think weathering the storm is going to be an option in this one. He either has to get busy early, or I think Orion finishes him. So not saying that's the way it goes. I'm just saying, based on the styles, I wouldn't be surprised. I do like Kosi here.
Well, and we took a little long to start, so we're going to keep it rolling quickly. Ronnie Lawrence minus 150 versus Trevin Jones plus 130. Ian, how does this play out?
You know what? Jones is a guy that's had to come back in both fights and win by knockout. However, Ronnie Lawrence, what he showed us and what we heard about him going to his UFC debut, excuse me, endless gas tank, dangerous everywhere, and just doesn't stop. I like Ronnie Lawrence here. I just really think that he is a special fighter, and I think he gets it done.
Coming up next, Jinyu Fry plus 125 versus Ashley Yoder minus 145. Ian, minus 145 here for Yoder. Is there any value with maybe parlaying her in any of these other fights? And myself, I like parlaying the over in this fight, but how do you feel?
I don't mind that. Look, in my opinion, Yoder's being way undervalued at minus 145 just based on competition alone. Look, fighting Angela Hill when Hill's been at her best. And Yoder stuck in there, didn't get finished. And look, Yoder has beaten people she's not supposed to, and she keeps getting better, in my opinion. Jinyu Fry is coming off a win, but she's kind of a one-dimensional fighter. She really just comes forward with her chin up and her hands down. She tries to take you down, and when she does, not a lot of movement there. More of a control fighter. Yoder is very active off her back. She's going to be the better striker. I think she'll be faster. I think she'll have the range. I like Yoder straight up. If you want to throw her into a parlay as well, by all means, go for it, but not my ideal situation. I like her straight up.
Well, and the margins are razor thin at this level, and that's why you got to get the value. That's why we call upon the Duck, Ian Parker. Follow him on social media at Ian Parker MMA. As we roll through this card, Denny Chavez minus 105 versus Kai Kamaka III minus 115. Very close fight according to the bookmaker, Ian, but how do you see this playing out?
All right, so yeah, look, with Kai Kamaka, he's coming off, last fight was a very questionable win with TJ Brown, obviously. However, I kind of like him here. I just think that if he can stay composed, he can get away from the calf kicks of Chavez. I think the striking, look, this is a very tough fight. I don't think either guy is going to get finished. Maybe look at the over here. This is one of those where I might tell you to stay away, only because it's so even and you really just can't get a lot from each fighter. I think Kamaka has the skills to win. So if you're really feeling like you have to play it, I would lean that way. But this might be a little too close to call.
Well, sometimes the best advice is not to pull the trigger. Sometimes the best shots you take are the shots that you don't take. That's what you got to remember in the gambling game here with my man Ian.
There you go.
But coming up next, we got Grizzmacher plus 245 versus Rafael Garcia minus 310. A lot wider odds there, Ian. Is there any play to be made?
Yeah, if you're going to do this, you could throw Garcia in a parlay. I do think he gets this done. I think he's better everywhere. Chris really has shown us that he's extremely hittable and that he hasn't really changed his game up after getting dropped and stopped multiple times. Garcia, this is a good one for him to really showcase his skills. It's too high to play it straight, so I would throw him in a parlay.
Well, and moving on straight up to this next fight, Melsik Bagdasaryan minus 145 versus Colin Anglin plus 125. Two fairly UFC newcomers here, Bagdasaryan making his debut, Anglin making his second fight in the UFC. But how does this play out for these two rookies?
I was really impressed with what Bogdasarian did against Dennis, in the Contender Series fight. It's really hard sometimes to play these contender guys when they come into the UFC. However, I think this matchup style-wise does play into his favor. So I'm going to go with Bogdasarian here.
Well, and you're right, because sometimes in those Contender Series fights, we don't necessarily get the matchups that prove that you're worthy of the UFC contendership. I think that fight for Bogdasarian did prove that. I'm excited for that fight as well. Coming up next in the women's division, Yannan plus 205 versus Nico Montano minus 225. The only woman that makes Valentina Shevchenko shake in her boots, the former champion Nico Montano. Ian, how does this fight play out?
Nico, if you're watching this, I did not say that. That was all Cody. Look, Nico had a very tough fight against Juliana Pena in her last fight. And I think that was a really good loss for her to have. What I mean by that is sometimes you need that cage time. You need that experience. You need that adversity to really understand when you're fighting at the top of the division, how hard it is. You need to show where your game can improve, and I think that did that for her. I think this is a great bounce back fighter. I don't know where Yannan will even pose a threat, to be honest. I think Montano takes her to the ground and just dominates. I would throw her in a parlay as well.
Good parlay opportunity there from the Ducky and Parker on Montano. Coming up next, the experience should play a factor in this fight as well. Bryan Barberena minus 275 versus Jason Witt plus 220. How does this play out from the most experienced MMA capper in the game?
Yeah, listen, Jason Witt's coming off a nice little win for himself. I think Witt's a tough guy. Also big on his jiu-jitsu. I just think that Barberena is someone where you don't really get to see him be a big favorite that often. He kind of likes being that underdog. That fight against Luque was incredible. He should have won. He got caught at the end. It is what it is. He's had some time to really rest and get back into it. I like Barberena here. Too high of a spread, minus 275 straight. We cannot do that. So if you want to play him, parlay it. I think this style plays into him very well. So let's go with Barberena here.
Barberena, the pick to click there for Ian Parker versus Jason Witt. Next on the card, Zaruk Adashev plus 120 versus Ryan Benoit minus 140. Coming up next in this card, UFC Vegas 33 on Saturday. Ian, how does this fight play out?
Yeah, I like Ryan here. I think he's got more tools. Even if he was an underdog, I still would have taken him in this fight. Adashev just hasn't really shown us. We know he's a kickboxer, but he got tagged by Tyson, and I just think if Benoit, however we're going to pronounce his name, if he fights smart, right, uses his grappling, but doesn't just obviously go for it, that's where his advantage really will be. He'll be better in the scrambles. I don't know if he'll be the faster striker. The kid can hit, but if he gets too confident, Adashev does have the power. So I still like Ryan here. I think he's a smart fighter. I think he's got a good team behind him, and I think he gets it done.
Well, and Ian, a couple of times on this program here that we're running, you've said, I see you on the pronunciations. And that's exactly what you're going to do on this next fight. But I know you see some value here. Jared Gooden plus 170 versus Niklas Storch minus 200. Storchi? I don't know. You German fans are going to have to help me on that one. But Ian, we're using American dollars when we bet on this one. Where can I take the pick?
I think Jared Gooden is only plus 170 now because of the short notice fight. Listen, Niklas Stolze, he's good. Any of the guys that he's beaten, I don't think any of them are UFC caliber. And Gooden's coming off a really solid war against Alan Joban. I just think that Gooden has got the tools here to get it done. The way he does it is he keeps the fight on his feet. He turns this into a war and he uses his striking. If Stoles can't get the fight to the floor, I think plus 170, some solid value with Gooden.
Solid value there from the Ducky and Parker for Jared Gooden. Coming up next on this fight, Gloria de Paula plus 150 versus Cheyenne buys minus 170. Ian, buy or sell on buys?
This one's tough. Listen, Gloria de Paula is not necessarily elite. However, she can strike, okay? And she is tough. Cheyenne buys was a prospect of the Contender Series, comes to the UFC where she was a huge favorite and got absolutely dominated. That could have been because of nerves. That could have been because it was unexpected. And I think this is a fight style-wise that does match up in her favor. So I'm going to lean buys here. I'm not overly confident in that play because that last fight really showed us that, the big stage got to her. Does it here? We're going to find out. She's got the wrestling. She's got the grappling, and she is a good striker in her own right. But if she gets stuck the way she did and she's hesitant and doesn't implement her plan, she can lose. I'm leaning buys, but I do not love the play.
So a bit of an aside here, Ian, we've had some trouble here with the judges. De Paula, you said, is very tough. That insinuates to me that maybe this is going to go to a decision. Do you have any hesitancy there after the PTSD maybe from last week with the judges?
Listen, if you're going to go every single weekend with PTSD from the judges, then stay away from the sport because it's out of, listen, You can only control the controllables, right? If these fighters go to a decision, you just got to hope the judges know what they're doing. Now, the Miranda Maverick fight was absolutely absurd. That's one out of the three that everyone keeps talking about. That to me is just being blind and not watching the fights or not understanding the rules. Other than that, listen, if you're going to bet in MMA, you got to move forward. I'm not saying trust the judges at all, but if you're that scared, take a break. But I wouldn't, because we're going to bounce back this week.
Well, there it is. Someone tell the producers to clip that. I'm the producer. So
yeah, you're the guy.
Coming up next, Kang minus 120 versus Rani Yahya plus 100. Ian, I'm tempted here on the plus 100 for Rani Yahya. Is that the MMA fan in me? Is there any value there?
No, I like Rani Yahya here. I was hoping he'd be a bigger underdog, to be honest, although I didn't see it happening. I actually thought he would have been like a minus 110 each type of thing. Look, Kang's last two fights, very close, won by split decision, not because the judges are off. That was literally, both fights were very close. He also has not fought in 18 months. He also hasn't fought someone to the level of grappling that Rani Yahya has. I like Yahya here. I think his striking has definitely improved. I think it's enough to get it to where he needs to be, closing the distance, and bring the fight to the floor. You know, he doesn't fight a whole lot either, but he has fought during this COVID time. I like Yahya plus 100.
Well, we are going to premiere this, and you know how it goes, guys. Ian gives his pick. Everyone goes to the bookies. The odds change. So you got to get this play in early. And, you know, if you're following Ian Parker, maybe you could have gotten better value on that. I don't know. Maybe you should follow him on social media. But I am going to follow Ian Parker wherever he goes, to the depths of hell, talking about this fight, Uriah plus 170 versus Sean Strickland minus 200. We're going to start in the blue corner at 23-3, the American Sean Strickland. He's ranked 11th in the UFC. He's winner of 5 of his last 6 since a decision loss at welterweight to champ Kamaru Usman in 2017. The aptly named Tarzan certainly lives by his own rules in the wilds of society, but don't let his social media presence fool you. He's coming in for his first headlining event prepared. He stands across the octagon from a man that is 6 years his senior at 36 years, representing Jamaica, fighting as the captain of Fortis MMA out of Texas. Primetime Uriah Hall enters this bout 17-9. Last victory, a very odd one against Chris Weidman, but still puts him on a 4-fight win streak. Winner of 5 of his last 6, just like Sean Strickland. Enters the fight leading the active middleweights with 8 KOs, TKO finishes, whereas Sean Strickland on the other side tied for 9th in the division with 3 decision wins. This fight's 5 rounds, 25-foot cage. Over 3.5 is minus 115, leading outcome odds plus 150 with Strickland by KO. Hall is the underdog plus 170, Strickland minus 200. Ian, I know you love this fight, and my recap, how does it go?
Take a bow. I don't think there's anything left for me to say.
I'm getting better. You should take that advice to the pay window. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I don't know if it was advice. I think you were just reading off a lot of stats, but you did it very well.
Well, Ian, the value is in the stats. That's all I got to say.
Luckily, there's no trends here. We're not asking the sharps what their opinions are these days. I am the sharp. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's start off with Sean Strickland. I think that was the first thing you said, and then I got lost in translation with the rest of the introduction. Sean Strickland, look, tough guy, all right? Before his motorcycle accident, he was a different fighter. Not good or bad or better or worse. Style was different. He was a tough guy, as he is now, but he used the clinch. He was against the cage type of fighter. He used his wrestling a lot. He really leaned on his grappling. Here's where things are a little tricky for me. I don't understand minus 200 even the slightest bit. He has not fought someone in the top 10, and with his style, yeah, he knocked out 2 guys. Brendan Allen, what was it, John Phillips, right? Phillips, big sorry, nothing against Johnny Boy, but big deal. That was a good showcase for his striking. However, he's fighting a guy in Uriah Hall who has been fighting against guys in the top 10 forever, fought everyone there is except for Israel Adesanya, okay? We don't have to talk about the Chris Weidman fight. It was a freak accident, and he doesn't brag or boast about it. He doesn't consider it a win, so that's all good. However, if Uriah Hall comes out and fights with confidence and does not get into his own head, he is easily, outside of Adesanya, the best striker in that division, one of the top strikers in the UFC. And he keeps getting better with his striking. His grappling game, he's no slouch there. He can get off the floor. He gets his back, he gets the cage, he gets up really well. But if Strickland is not going to threaten the wrestling at all and is going to turn this into a kickboxing match, how do you not take Uriah Hall plus 170? Strickland has not fought high-level competition. And that's not a knock on Brendan Allen. Also, look, Allen just put on the performance of a lifetime against Soriano this weekend. But when he fought Allen was not that same guy, okay? Strickland has not fought anyone in the top 10. Uriah Hall has fought everybody in the top 10, like I said, except Israel Adesanya. I like Uriah Hall here at plus 170. If he could just be confident and just believe in himself. This is a guy who is the better striker. He takes better angles, cardio wise, he's got it. He can't be as slow and hesitant as he was in the Anderson Silva fight. He can't wait to the third round to get it going because Strickland's going to walk him down zombie style and try to press the fight, which plays into Hall style. Hall likes to counter. He likes to dance around. So look, if Strickland doesn't wrestle, I think that he is becoming quite psychotic. These videos are alarming that he talks about. Maybe that's who he actually is, or maybe that's what he's doing for social media. I have no idea. But if he's going to just walk straight forward, not threaten anything on the ground, you give me Uriah Hall all day at plus 170.
Well, Ian, you can talk all the crazy if you want, as long as these picks are going straight to the pay window.
Yeah, we sure hope so.
That's it. That's all we do. We give it to you in less than 20 minutes. This is a Coach Picks production, all rights reserved. 2021. Ian, I'm just walking through everything. I love to talk, as you can see by my layout, but I'm out of breath. Do you have any last words for our bettors this weekend?
Listen, pay attention to the show. Take the education for what it is. Don't get discouraged by losses. It happens. Don't try and be a hero betting every single fight on the card. We have a strategy here for a reason. There's a reason why I parlay certain people. There's a reason why I bet certain ones straight. So listen, people complain sometimes there's a lack of underdogs, too many favorites. Guys, when I do these picks, I don't even look at the odds to begin with. I go by the styles, I go by the fights, and then we look at value. So look, we're going to get it done. We're going to win this weekend and then just on to the next. But we got a lot of fights this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Money management, risk management, and time management. We're taking it all straight to the pay window. That's it. Cody Merrow, Ian Parker, Combat Coach. We're out.